The following conversations are taken from our channel membership exclusive weekly live show that we do on Saturdays from 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time called Members Talk Live. Find out how you can become a member and appear on the show. All of the information is down in the description below, as well as all of the links to the channels of today's guests. Check them out, and I hope to talk with you very soon. I think it's mostly appropriate because I've been talking about it so much. I've been waiting for it for so long, was the Joker teaser. And that's kind of what I want to start off with because I've had a chance to do a reaction and talk about it on the show and talk about it with people in the chat, but I've not had the chance to talk about it with like people face to face. So the Joker 2 teaser I know was very, very hyped up for a lot of people. There was also some people who were very trepidatious about it with the musical aspect, kind of being a little bit vague, not really knowing how it's going to play in the movie. There were some people who were just like, it's a musical, I'm out. So we can only speak for ourselves, but speaking for myself, I loved this teaser that they released for Joker 2. I thought this thing was absolutely gorgeous. And I want to hear from you first, Michael. What did you think of the Joker 2 teaser? Did it live up to your expectations? Did you have any expectations for this trailer? And how did it play out for you?
I loved the first Joker film that came out a couple years ago. I think I saw that in theaters 4 times. I think that move Joker was probably the movie I saw the most in theaters 4 times. Loved that movie. And when I heard about the sequel, when I heard it was a musical, I was kind of like, there's got to be something more to that because I don't think Todd Phillips would have just straight up made it a musical. But I think the trailer lived up to my expectations. It was awesome seeing Lady Gaga, who's a great actress from what I've seen her in recently, playing Harley Quinn. And then I don't know, the trailer really did a lot for me, honestly, because I was one of those few guys when the first Joker trailer came out back in the day. I was one of the few guys that was like, I think it looks good. And I have a feeling that the musical aspect is probably like an Arthur Fleck's head, like it's an imagination type thing. So I don't think the movie's going to be like a full-on musical. It's just going to be like kind of like in the first Joker film where Arthur Fleck had like a lot of those visions where he would like be talking to Zazie Beetz' character even though she's not there. So I think it looks really good, honestly. I'm very, very excited for it.
Yeah, you can definitely see how the title's kind of relating to the context of the musical aspect once you watch this teaser, because Folie Deux is Madness for Two, I believe, is the translation to English. And you see in this trailer, it's like Arthur and Harley kind of sharing the same fantasies, the same musical. That's how it appears in the teaser, anyways. We won't know until the actual movie comes out, but it looks like they're both indulging in each other's musical fantasies, and I was really blown away by the cinematography with those scenes as well. Like just in the trailer alone, like the staging of it, the fact that it looked like they were like on an actual stage at times in the teaser, like a full-on production. It looked fantastic. T, you were someone who I'm pretty sure was a little bit more trepidatious about Joker 2. I don't think you're a big fan of the first Joker, if I remember correctly. What did this teaser do for you? Did it make you a fan, or are you still a little bit on the fence there?
So I'm definitely still on the fence with the movie, but at the same time, it was a really good trailer. Like I can say it was a very well-made trailer. The music, like you can tell some of the scenes, it kind of had like this La La Land vibe to it. Like it had the very 50s, 60s musical vibe to the trailer. Like it kind of, had that going for it. And that final scene of the trailer was that sold me on actually wanting to see the movie, because there was a point in my life where I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna go see this. I'm gonna put my foot down and just not see it, because at the beginning of the trailer, Arthur Fleck, like he looks so meek and just it kind of throws me off. I'm a Mark Hamill Joker guy, like the Batman animated series. I love that take of the Joker. And this just didn't do it for me in the first Joker, but that final scene got me. I will say that when she drew the smile on the mirror,
dude,
that was great.
Amazing.
I loved it so much, and the way that it like focuses onto Joaquin Phoenix as he like comes into the frame and fits the smile. Like,
yes,
yeah, that might be as of this point in the year, maybe even at the end of the year, that is like the image of the a movie that sticks in my mind the most of everything. And it's from a teaser, it's from a
Well, if you
trailer,
really
but
think
like
about,
it's
well,
such
if you
an
really think
effective
about
shot.
that shot, when you think about that shot, can you imagine how difficult it actually must have been to make sure that he was facing
Mhm.
the right direction? Because like, it's not like you can step your foot on like a mark that they make on the floor. He had to like make sure that his head was in the perfect position. Like, imagine how hard that must have been to really do.
Yeah, just a simple little thing like that, but like so much work and so much like that was one of the things about this teaser that like instantly kind of made me at ease because I've kind of talked about it on the channel before, and you'll probably never hear me say this again. But I was worried a little bit about Joker 2 because the first Joker was famously by Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix themselves. They've said it was meant to just be a one-off. They weren't planning anything more with it. It was supposed to just be one and done. And then it got a lot of success. I mean, $1 billion, Oscar, Joaquin Phoenix won the Academy Award for Best Actor. So then the studio comes and says, "All right, you're doing another one." And it was always like, okay, well, the first one was obviously made with passion and from the stance of, I just have this idea that I really want to get out there. Whereas the sequel, not wanting to do a sequel in the first place, is just going to be more about just like the money and they just need to make the money again because of the first one's success? Or do they have an actual creative idea here and a way to go forward with this character and the story? And that teaser put all of those fears at it. Like, it looks like a proper continuation of where we left off in 2019. I mean, even the fact that Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn, which this was something that was interesting to me in the teaser as well. She's not a psychiatrist, which I don't know if they ever made that official, if that was rumored and I just missed it or I just forgot about it, but she's just another inmate with him. But what they're keeping at the core of that relationship is the fact that she is such a fanatic of him, but her submissiveness and stuff is what's going to make that toxic abusive relationship still, which is a tragedy of almost a Harley Quinn character, but is the core of their twisted relationship in the comics and in the cartoons and stuff. So
Right.
I was very pleased with that. I was also surprised at that angle, but the way that the musical sequences do appear to just be a continuation of the fantasies of these mad just psychopaths. Um, I think it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work more than I thought it was going to work before I saw this teaser. Do you guys still have? Did you have any fears first of all before this teaser came out? Do you still have fears a little bit for this movie? Uh, where are you standing on that? I see Michael kind of iffy there. What are you thinking, man?
You know, I am a little bit still worried in the sense because like if it ends up actually being like a full-on musical and my predictions of what it actually is like just being in Arthur's mind and Harley's mind, if that ends up being wrong and the movie ends up being a full musical, I think that'll kind of take away like what made the first Joker so grounded as a film. I feel like it'll,
Mm.
because if they actually go with the full musical route where they make the whole movie a musical, it almost kind of seems like Todd Phillips would be just trolling the audience at that point. But I don't think that's the case, honestly. I think Todd Phillips, I mean, he's done good with like the Hangover movies. He's never really made a movie like Joker before. But from that first film, it really proved like that he was a great filmmaker. So I don't think he's going to do anything to tarnish for a sequel that he originally didn't plan. I think like he's going, you know what? I didn't have a sequel planned, but it's happening, and I'm going to make it just as good as the first one. Who knows? Maybe it even might be better than the first one. It's possible.
I mean, I will say this: the teaser is better than the first teaser they dropped for Joker. Because I remember when the first teaser for Joker came out back in, I guess it was early 2019, maybe 2018, before that first
2019.
film. Yeah, I remember for that first film, that first teaser came out, and I was intrigued, but I wouldn't say that I was excited. And for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, I mostly just went to see it out of curiosity. Whereas this one, and it does have the advantage of being a sequel, but with this one, I'm like genuinely excited for it. Like it looks really, really good.
Yeah.
T, you've already expressed some of your concerns about Joker 2 and even the first Joker. Do those lessen for you a little bit based off this teaser? Do they increase for you? Where are you standing with that after watching this first teaser?
So there was a small film called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness that came out a few years ago. And that's why I'm putting this. Like, I think people have such high expectations of Joker. And of course, I could be wrong, but I mean, how many sequels have we had that just like completely just,
Mhm.
I mean, they're 1 out of 10 sequels really either match or surpass the original. It's very few. You know, you got Aliens, you might have Empire Strikes Back, like those sequel, like, but those are iconic. And once again, I would love to be wrong, but I just don't see it being as because some people hold the Joker in high regard. I'm not one of those people, so I think I might go into it and actually like it more than someone who, because of the tone of the original Joker, like that tone was very dark. It was very. It just was. It was tonally not what I was expecting.
Right.
And going into the Joker 2, I think that there is a shift in tone. In the trailer, it does look like it's trying to keep the same, but at the same time, taking it to a different level with the music. And that's actually my wheelhouse. I'm a big fan. Like, I love La La Land. I'm a big musical guy. I love the Mean Girls musical. I thought that was fantastic. Like, I enjoy musicals. So this might actually win me over, but at the same time, the base Joker fans might be upset with this sequel.
We got a newest member of the show joining us today. We've got Zach Attack Reviews here with us today.
What's up, Zach?
What's going on?
Hello, guys, how you doing?
Welcome to the show. Welcome to Members Talk Live. It's an honor to have you here, my friend.
For sure.
Appreciate
We're talking about the Joker 2 teaser. We're just about wrapping up this topic, but really quickly, dude, what did you think of this teaser? What were your thoughts on it? Do you have any concerns or worries going into the movie? And if you did before, did this teaser squash those for you? How'd you feel about this one, man?
in saying, why do we need this movie? I needed that. Like that. By the time Mal came on the screen, I was like, yeah, I need this. Move everything around, reshuffle it, make it come out in May.
Make it come out in May.
May. I agree.
I agree.
I don't need any other trailers. I was like, oh, it's musical. Oh, I like Margot Robbie as Harley. I don't need Lady Gaga. And I was like, nah, you never mind. Shut up, Zach. You don't know what you're talking about. This is why you don't make movies. You just talk about it. But yeah, it was great. It wasn't like this trailer ever, but it just showed that it's gonna be a movie. I hope that they hold up to what the trailer showed.
One of the things that T brought up was Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, which, yes, had really overhyped expectations, didn't fully meet them, but that movie went on to make like 980 million. It was kissing that $1 billion at the box office. Now, as we know, Joker 1 also made $1 billion. I think it made over $1 billion, just over $1 billion at the box office. Huge success. Yeah. A question that a lot of people are asking about this one is, can that be replicated? Can that be duplicated? Let's say that word. Can that be duplicated? Can they do it again? Will Joker 2 hit that $1 billion or higher mark? I'm going to throw it to you first, T. What do you think? Because you're the one with the most hesitations towards this movie out of us. So do you see a reality where this hits $1 billion like its predecessor?
I think so. Because Lady Gaga brings in her core fan base. The Joker already has its core fan base. And I mean, it made $1 billion. And I don't think a lot of people, there are not a lot of me's out there who thought the movie wasn't great. There are a lot of people who really hold the Joker in high regard. So they're definitely going to go into this. And I think like Lady Gaga sold me in the trailer. Like I think she's probably going to steal this movie, at least in my mind. Because she just has this charisma to her. She has that it factor. Like, she's a fantastic actress. Of course, Joaquin Phoenix is gonna do what he does. He's gonna bring it, but I think it could. $1 billion is a lot, man. That's asking for a lot. 750. I can see that. Maybe 800, but $1 billion. It could do it, but I would say about 800 is probably like a sweet spot for me.
That's fair. Okay. Zach, we've seen this before. We've seen movies make $1 billion and their sequels not quite hit that. I mean, one that comes to mind, but totally different circumstances, of course, was Black Panther. Black Panther made over $1 billion. Wakanda Forever, still really good. I think it hit 800 million or close to it, but less than $1 billion. So could Joker have the same effect? Do you think Joker will hit that $1 billion like its predecessor? Or do you think this is a sequel that, now that we've seen what Joker is, and there's a lot of curiosity going into that 2019 film, some people were turned off of it. Like T, you mentioned that you think most people liked it. I would argue that it's pretty split. I've seen a lot of people who either love the movie or just despise it or think that the messaging was just terrible or poorly handled. I mean, there was a lot of controversy when it came out in 2019. Zach, where do you think this is going to land based off of this teaser, really?
I think Wakanda Forever is a very good comp because the reason why Wakanda Forever didn't do $1 billion is because they lost the main star, and there was a whole like backlash against not recasting. And I think here, obviously it's not going to be backlash, but I think there's going to be backlash for people not realizing it is a musical. I think that they're doing the Wonka, Mean Girls, maybe a little bit of Color Purple, not showcase even Wicked. If you look at all these trailers for these movies, they're all musicals and no one knew going in. I'll never forget watching Wonka and someone, what's the name? Timothy Chalamet started singing. And somebody in my crowd was like, "What the hell?" Like one of the funniest moments I ever had. So I can see people seeing maybe a teaser trailer or just seeing the poster and not realizing going into Joker, and then it gets a lot of bad word of mouth. So I think that the story would have to be like extremely phenomenal, have some really crazy R-rated moments for people like, I know it's a musical, but it's worth it because the movie's awesome. It has to blow it out of the park to bring people for repeat viewing. That's how you make $1 billion. People have to come back and watch it. If they don't like the musical elements, then we see the box office. Only Wonka is the only one out of those I just mentioned that did really well. That movie was just so good and felt so good that people went back and rewatched it.
Excellent point. That's a really good point, actually, because rewatching is a big way that these movies are able to hit that $1 billion mark. And Michael, I mean, we won't know, like Zach was saying, we won't know until this movie comes out if it's good, if it's bad, how the word of mouth is for it to get that rewatch and get that viewership to get it to $1 billion. But just based off of what you're seeing online, the hype level that's there, the teaser itself, do you see a world where this makes $1 billion like its predecessor?
Well, like you guys said, you guys mentioned earlier, Black Panther and all that stuff. There's another movie that is a good example, which is also a DC film. The first Aquaman movie surprisingly made $1 billion. Aquaman, Lost Kingdom, whatever. I don't remember the name. I don't think anybody does. That did like nothing. Like, I mean, it made its budget back, but I mean,
it made about 500 million, close to it, which is which is more than any of the other DC movies made of the past.
Which I was surprised. Like, I wasn't a fan of Aquaman. I wasn't a fan of that movie so much that I didn't even review it, which is funny because I review even horrible movies. I mean, I reviewed Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, the first one last year, so I just didn't care to review that one. So I don't know, man. I mean, the first Joker was a movie that nobody expected to be as like popular as it is now. From people quoting it, to people even considering it to be like in the list for like art type films, movies. Like when I say that, like, people consider it in the same realms as like Shawshank Redemption or Scent of a Woman, all these great art films that you would even consider them to be. So I think I'll go with what T said. Like, I don't think it'll make $1 billion, especially since, ever since COVID happened, people decide to stream more than they did when, like, the first Joker came out.
That's an excellent point. We were in a different world, moviescape wise, than when the first Joker came out. That is a brilliant point, my friend.
Yeah, like the only two movies that were able to prove that they were still able to make $1 billion, even during the COVID, were Avatar: Way of Water and Top Gun: Maverick. So far, that's it. That's the only ones I can think of that were successfully able to get $1 billion pre-COVID and like after COVID. That's all I can think of, unless maybe I'm missing one.
No Way Home, I think. No Way Home.
No Way Home. That's right.
Yeah.
And I think Fast X might have made a bunch of money too. Surprisingly,
nope.
Did it not? Did it not?
Well, I think it made 700 million. Yeah.
But it was like Barbie, Oppenheimer, Mario Brothers. Those are the billions.
That's right.
Oppenheimer did like 989. I'm rounded up.
Yeah,
that's right. Well, I think Top Gun and Avatar probably saved those movies. Then, would be a better way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, it was famous that Steven Spielberg told Tom Cruise that he saved the movie theaters. So yeah, that was a big thing for me. I'm gonna say I think we're in a place where the comic book genre is so oversaturated, and there's this whole thing about superhero fatigue that I think in order to get the audience out there and interested, you got to do something completely new and original. And to me, this seems like that thing. If it works, like we were saying before, in the teaser, it looks like it will. And like it looks like it will more than I thought that it would. Now, whether or not it's going to be good, we don't know. But based off the popularity of the Joker, the popularity of Joker 2019, even with the controversy, I think those who didn't like the first one, if it gets positive buzz, or even if it's just buzz in general, the curiosity might be there enough that they will go and check it out. And I am going to actually say I think it will. I think this will make $1 billion. I think it will be less of $1 billion than the first one, but I could, if everything aligns perfectly, and it's October. I don't think much comes out in October around that time, if I remember correctly, because that'll also play into it as well as the competition around it. But I'm going to go off on a limb and say I think it will. I think it'll make $1 billion. But we'll have to wait and see. As far as for this teaser, Zach, at the end of each topic, we do a buy or sell. Basically, just what we're talking about. Do we buy or sell it? Do we think it's a good idea? Do we think it's a bad idea? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you buy or sell it? And for Joker, not the $1 billion, none of that, but just the teaser alone. Do we buy or sell the first teaser for Joker 2? I'm giving it a big buy. I loved it.
If you need more thumbs, I don't know.
I mean, sometimes T has 3 because sometimes we'll have that special extra one that comes up.
Yes, yeah. I'm not on the Mac today.
No,
that does that extra thing.
Let's move from a topic that gets me really excited, and let's get to a topic that makes me so confused. If you talk to a movie buff, a movie fanatic, and you ask them, hey, which genre do you think is basically dead? 9 times out of 10, I think you're going to get the parody genre. The parody genre, I think, was most in its heyday in the early aughts. And there was some good ones in like the 80s and the 90s. But I think the last parody movie that isn't really even a parody movie, but was the best parody movie to come out, I would say, is the Lego Batman movie back in 2000, what was that, 17, something like that.
27.
Hilarious, and had all the makings of a parody movie just in Lego form. Well, one of the most popular parody movies of all time is the Scary Movie franchise. I mean, whether or not you love them or hated them, they're one of the most popular parody franchises. But they've been dead for a while, along with the genre. Well, we've got news that they are actually going to be bringing this franchise back. This comes to us from Variety. Says Paramount Pictures announced that it is partnering with Fast and Furious. First of all, that's weird. Fast and Furious mega producer Neal H. Moritz to resurrect the dormant franchise. Scary Movie is going into production in the fall of 2024 and should hit theaters in 2025. The series spawned 5 previous films before running out of gas with the 2013 installment. But horror has continued to be a major force at the box office, with movies like Five Nights at Freddy's, Smile, and Megan drawing big crowds. So there's a lot of new material for the Scary Movie team to parody. Scary Movie is also being made as part of the Paramount's first look partnership with Miramax, the studio behind the film franchise. Miramax will fully finance the production, with Paramount handling distribution. The indie label is a joint venture between Paramount and BN. Miramax recently announced that it has a new CEO and former MGM chief, Jonathan Glickman. So, Scary Movie. Look, I'll be honest. I think I've seen half of one of these. I think my friend tried to show me it once, and I was really young, and I just felt really uncomfortable because I thought it was super inappropriate. But you know, I have like some, like the biggest parody movie I think I've liked from this kind of genre was Superhero Movie. I don't think it's a good movie, but that one just tickles my funny bone. It's very much a parody of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I love that film, so I kind of love the parody film of it as well. But I'll throw it to you first, Michael. Scary Movie. What's your history with the franchise, and do you want to see it come back? Do you think that this is a smart move?
You know, I do have a lot of fond memories with the first 2 Scary Movies, specifically the second one, because Tim Curry's in it, and who doesn't love Tim Curry? Scary Movie 1 and 2, obviously they're not good movies, but they're parody movies, so of course. But those are the only ones I really enjoyed because, you know, Anna Faris is hilarious and Marlon Wayans, you know, they got the Wayans brothers involved. So I think they're funny. Scary Movie 3 was dumb. You know, that was like the parody of Signs. Scary Movie 4 I thought was awful. Scary Movie 5, I remember going to see that in theaters in middle school when I was in 7th grade. That was awful. It's like, and then these don't really count, but they do have the Wayans brothers, and they are parody movies. The haunted house films are just also kind of iffy. And then Mike Epps also did Meet the Blacks, which was like a parody of The Purge. I just feel like at this point, parody movies are just, I think they're dead. Like even Mel Brooks recently just did part 2 to History of the World, which is also a parody movie, and nobody saw it. So
I didn't know about it.
Yeah, no, and Mel Brooks directed it. If Mel Brooks, probably one of the 8 kings of comedy, the man who made parody films as popular as it is, if his film can,
Spaceballs is like my absolute favorite.
Oh my God, Spaceballs, freaking Blazing Saddles. I mean, all those movies.
Hot Shots? Did he do Hot Shots, or was that someone else?
No, no, he didn't do. But I do like Hot Shots, though. I do like that a lot. But
great, man.
If Mel Brooks, the man who is the king of parody films, if his parody film to one of the best parody films of all time can't even be seen by a bunch of people, I mean, you didn't even know it came out. If his film can't be seen, then I don't have any hope for Scary Movie. That's how I'll leave it.
I don't really care for Scary Movie other than like the my hand thing. I didn't think the franchise was really that funny, and I didn't really go watching for them. But then I thought about how, we've had a new genre of horror called elevated horror, and it's super serious, and they're going for Oscars and Hereditary and Lighthouse and all the other stuff. And there's not a lot of horror comedies anymore. And I think that with a new creative team, because I don't think the Wayans brothers are going to be working on this version of it, I think that they can make something really funny by making fun of these super serious horror movies. There's a lot of material there. Obviously, they can make fun of like Megan and stuff like that, Night Swim, and all these Blumhouse movies that are so stupid. But I think if they decide to let's make fun of elevated horror route, I think a lot of film fans can find some enjoyment in that if they do it right.
I guess I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, I think horror, like they said, has been on a rise in terms of just being very consistent. Even the worst movies like Imaginary make a lot of money because they're so cheap to make, and people just go to see horror. And I think that if they find the right creative team, they can really execute this. It can be done really well because, like you said, we don't have any parody. Scary Movie 5 came out in 2013. This is coming out in 2025. That's 12 years. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole new generation of 12-year-olds who will go on to watch this movie when they shouldn't be watching it and enjoying it. And a lot of you found other horror movies through Scary Movie because they're like, oh, I didn't know about this. They were parodying this, and then went to go watch the horror movie. Somebody might find Hereditary because of it. So I think if they go that route, then it can be successful. If they just go the route of just making fun of Blumhouse or making fun of like the most popular ones all the time, I think that might get really corny really fast. But
oh yeah.
It's going to be tough. They have it's really, really tough. I know some people are going to be upset that the Wayans brothers are not involved. They started it. They kind of created it. There's kind of the reason why it's been so long since we've done another one, because they've been negotiating and fighting for it. So that's going to be a little bit of a hill for it to climb. But if they execute it well, I could see it being a hit.
Fair enough.
Sure. I mean, this article does mention you could argue that they did grow it and get one of the biggest parody producers of all time with the Fast and Furious producer. Those movies have definitely become like parodies of themselves.
They are. Yeah.
Maybe this could still work. But one thing that Zach talked about that is definitely applicable to Scary Movie is cheap. These movies have been cheap. They've looked cheap, especially as they've gone on. They've just looked cheaper and cheaper. Just the little clips I've seen online and images and stuff. I can already tell how cheap they. Meet the Spartans was probably the last one I tried to watch.
Oh my god!
And I could not get through Meet the Spartans.
Oh my god, that's great.
But do you agree with Zach over here, T? Do you think that there is enough new elevated direction in horror that there is a new angle to approach the Scary Movie parodies with, or do you think they need to increase their budgets to be successful, or their cheap way of filmmaking won't work nowadays? What are your thoughts about this as this is all hitting you in the brain that we're getting another Scary Movie coming to our theaters in 2025?
So there's definitely a lot of material to do it. Like there's more than enough horror material. Like the elevated horror, that's a plus. Like as you guys were talking, I was just thinking of different ideas of just different things they could do with the Scary Movie franchise. I think like Scary Movie 1 and 2, Scary Movie 2, the hand thing, I remember seeing that in the theater, and I remember laughing. So I can't think of this guy's name to save my life right now. Chris, what is his name? Like he was in that, something about Mary.
Chris
I
Elliott.
can't think of his name. Chris Elliott.
Yes.
Oh my God, use my strong hand, child. Like I still use that line to this day. Great. Like once the Wayans brothers stepped out, I think after Scary Movie 3, that's when the Wayans brothers either sold the rights or lost the rights to the Scary Movie because they wrote and produced the first two. I want to say they might have produced the third one, but that after the third one, that's when it stopped getting funny. The one with Charlie Sheen and Denise Richards, they were in like the fifth one.
That's right.
But like the Wayans brothers, those first two, and the third one was okay, but like the first two were like they were cheap, yes, but they made a lot of money. Like the Scary Movie franchise made a ton of money, just like most horror does. You make it for $5 million, and then you gross $150 million, like or $200 million. Like I want to say the Scary Movie franchise is probably gross closer to $1 billion than $500 million. Like I
just looked it up. $900 million.
Whoa.
Wow.
So yeah, and they probably all 5 films probably cost $200 million altogether.
Yeah.
If that in order to make those movies. So there's definitely like people only care about money. Like we've seen with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, which is a great movie to parody in Scary Movie. It writes itself, but like those movies, they don't cost that much to make. And then at least if you can make $100 million, if you've made a movie for $5 million, like you've made your money back and then some. So I definitely could see the reason why you want to do something like that with any horror movie. But like you were saying, there are new 12-year-olds who've never seen any of the Scary Movies, and now they're movies that are closer to them, like, or 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, like who've never seen a Scary Movie, but now they have Hereditary, they have Midsommar, which once again, those jokes, like I'm thinking of various ways of just making jokes of those movies, and they could definitely do it. Will I go watch it? Probably not, but there's definitely an audience for it.
Good point.
Well, I think that the last thing you said there does kind of hit on another point I'm kind of thinking about, because as you guys are talking, honestly, you're kind of winning me over to your side a little bit, to be honest, which I wasn't expecting, to be honest. But there is something that I do think is a little bit of a hurdle, and that is the brand. Is the brand damaged? Is the audience already conditioned to see these movies as nothing but junk? Like, because even what Michael was talking about back in our last topic, the movie landscape has changed. Like, yeah, those movies did really well in the time frame that they came out in, but is there still a place in this world where we're post-COVID and people, for lack of a better word, are being very picky and choosy of what they're going out to see? And especially now that we're in the world of streaming, right? A movie like this is something that you can find a million of these kind of movies on stream, like Tubi, all these different kind of streaming services. You can find so good they're bad movies and parody movies and self-financed movies all over the place now.
Oh yeah, especially on Tubi.
Yeah, is it just a different world? And can Scary Movie make it in this world? Because that's the one thing that I'm thinking is their biggest hang up is I don't know if the audiences would be coming out to these like they did back in the day. What do you think about that, Michael?
Well, you know what? Kind of a weird comparison, but it might work. I think about it like Kevin Smith movies. I mean, Kevin Smith is great. I mean, iconic what he did with the first Clerks movie, and was able to get financed to do like even bigger comedies with a bigger budget. But nowadays with Kevin Smith movies, even though he does have a very loyal and big fan base, his movies don't get full theatrical releases. Like I saw Clerks 3, and that movie was only in theaters for like a week. So I have a feeling that if they do this with Scary Movie, it might just be like a limited time release thing, because I don't think there's a big audience for it anymore. Same with Kevin Smith movies. Like if Kevin Smith would have made Clerks nowadays, I guarantee nobody would have gone to see it.
Yeah. No, that, like, excellent point, because like smaller movies don't really, they don't have the life in the theaters like they used to once have. Do you agree with that, T, or do you think I'm a little off in my assessment there?
No, you definitely in the right. I think, to me, like me being a scary movie somewhat enthusiast, I love Regina King. Like, if she's not
Oh,
back, I don't want to see it. Like,
oh, she's great. I
Anna
love her.
Faris has to, like, Anna Faris and Regina King. Those are the two people who really held those first three scary movies together. You can do like a Scream thing where you bring, once again, the young, good-looking people to, and then you have the OGs. And you can do that because, once again, we've had a bunch of Screams since we've had Scary Movie, which Scary Movie was a riff on Scream. Like, the original Scary Movie was supposed to be like this riff on Scream. And yeah, like I mean, are people gonna go see it? I mean, the guy who's doing Fast and the Furious is producing it, so they got money. So as long as you get some box office stars, like some young stars, you get what's a David Corn Sweat, the new Superman, and like some and you know, some young up and cut, the girl who looks like Margot Robbie, like the from Sex Education, like you get them in the movie.
Dude, get everybody big right now. Get Sydney Sweeney, get Timothy Chalamet, get Tom Holland, get all of them.
You are not getting those people in this movie.
No, that's what I'm saying. Get the people who look like those people. Like get the closest person to that, and then get Regina King and Anna Faris back for one last ride, right? You know, I don't know.
You guys have definitely planted some seeds in my brain during this conversation, because now I'm thinking about like what they can do with like legacy sequels, like going off of like Scream and Scream 5 and Scream 6 and stuff like that. If they were to do like a legacy sequel parody with the Scary Movie franchise, there is angles that you could look at this. But Zach, I can't get over this question of, will the audience still turn out, or are they? Is this a franchise that do you think can translate to the new generation, or do you think it's just going to slightly appeal to those who grew up with this, because it's very niche?
I think there's like a middle ground that they have to do. I think T brought it up, bringing in the new stars like a Jenna Ortega. I can see Jenna Ortega doing something like this. She's not
like
at a level. Yeah, she's not at a level where I think that she does like highbrow things all the time. And she has comedic timing. If you watch Wednesday, you can get a bunch of young stars that people like but aren't like riding for Oscars all the time, like a Jenna Ortega, or even a kid that was in that science fiction Netflix film with Ryan Reynolds. He was like a mini Ryan Reynolds. I forgot what his name is now. He should be.
He's in the Percy Jackson series. I can't.
Like Walker
Scober. Yeah, him. Yeah. He's hilarious, and I think he's recognizable enough that he can bring people in. I think if you get a bunch of people who are on the cusp, I think with Scary Movie 1 through 3, I think the key there was casting. Like, the story is not all that great, and the jokes, if you give it to anybody else, might not be executed as well. But it's the casting, is those actors, how well they execute these stupid jokes.
That's true.
You get a really young cast that know how to do comedy. I think they can do it really well. And I was thinking about getting like a completely like new young cast, but I think what he said, parodying the legacy sequel of having the older ones and the younger ones come together, and we now have new slashers too, because you said this was based off Scream. We have Thanksgiving. That can be parodied so well. Right. I'm already thinking of a joke of that scene in Thanksgiving when he's eating somebody. I already know what the youngins will
or even Hereditary.
Hereditary, or even what's the one with the clown? Art the Clown?
Terrifier.
Oh my god! Like, so
I would love to see that.
Oh, they totally do Terrifier. Absolutely, yeah.
They could do Terrifier. So there's material out the wazoo. They could combine stuff, but I think if they listen to all these different ideas what we did and execute them well, people will come. Because I think the older people will be interested, like me and you guys who grew up on it. But the younger generation will see, oh, shoot, that person from the Percy Jackson is in this, or Jenna Ortega's in this. I'll go check it out. Because if Jenna Ortega can Mills Girl make money, she can make Scary Movie make money.
So I just thought of a way to make Scary Movie make $1 billion.
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega, the Scream Girls. I'm telling you, the Scream Girls show up in Scary Movie.
Wow,
those jokes write themselves.
Get all
especially since they got let go from the Scream franchise now.
Oh,
that's dude. T.
Genius.
T. You were on the wrong side.
That's
See,
the
you were on the
Stranger
wrong
Things
side of
kids.
work. You got
They're
to
not
do
doing
producers.
The Stranger Things kids ain't doing anything. Yeah, let's get them all.
I cannot believe you guys pulled me over to your freaking side. That is insane. Yeah, okay. Let's buy or sell this thing. Let's buy or sell this thing. Do we buy or sell more scary movies?
I'm buying it now.
How
I'm
about
sold
this?
myself.
I was.
Is there a middle?
Yeah, there is. There is,
Yes.
Zach. I'm with you.
I don't know if this is considered. I don't know if this is considered a middle or not.
I don't think they're as smart as us.
That works, man.
That's why I'm scared.
I'm going halfway because I think it's a bad idea to do it, but I want to see some of your ideas.
You get a good comedy writer, it can be done. If you get a good writer,
Yep.
like T said. So, yeah, okay, we can just end it to that.
You've convinced me. You've convinced me that they can rebuild this thing, and I am shocked that I feel that way. Let's move on to this because this is pretty interesting and exciting news coming out of CinemaCon.
Yeah.
So we had Transformers: Rise of the Beast. Was that last year? That feels like 2 years ago, but I think
It was last year.
Yeah, we had Rise of the Beast last year, which did moderately well in the box office. It wasn't a smash hit. It wasn't as big as Transformers films in the past, but it did decent. And one of the things that it promised at the end of the movie was that we were going to combine two franchises next. We were going to get Transformers and G.I. Joe. Now, once the box office came out for Rise of the Beast and it was moderate, some people were starting to question, are they going to do that? Are they going to move forward with this? Well, at CinemaCon, they've announced it. They are moving forward with it. This comes to us from Deadline. Says, we knew that this was coming as indicated in the coda of last summer's Transformers Rise of the Beast, but the G.I. Joe team and Transformers are getting together for a new feature film at Paramount. The idea is based on a storyline played out for the Hasbro brands in their 1980s Marvel published comics. That coda from Rise of the Beast see that Transformers hero played by Anthony Ramos getting approached in a secret bunker by a member of the Michael Kelly. I don't know. I don't think that's right. I think that might have been messed up. But Steven Spielberg is executive producing the new film. No filmmaker attached yet, despite the idea being hatched by filmmaker Stephen Cable Jr. in Rise of the Beasts. So that comes to us from Deadline. So I find this really interesting for a couple of reasons, because G.I. Joe is kind of dead. At least in the general audiences, I would say. They had a couple movies in the early aughts. I think The Rock was in one of them. I think it was in Rise of the Cobra or something like that. I remember watching that as a kid and not really getting what was going on.
I think that was G.I. Joe Retribution. I think that's what it was called.
Is it? It was one of those movies.
Retaliation. Yeah.
One of those movies. But G.I. Joe, they tried to do, what was that? Snake Eyes? Was that G.I. Joe or was that something else? Snake Eyes.
Yep,
yeah,
Snake
I thought
Eyes.
it was
I think everybody forgot about that movie.
Yeah, it didn't do well. No one went out to go see that one. G.I. Joe has not been very popular in the 2020s, and Transformers has had its popularity, but like I said, Rise of the Beast did moderately. It kind of seems like the audience may not be there so much anymore. So now you're taking Transformers and G.I. Joe and you're putting them together. That's a really interesting thing to me right now, especially the fact that you wouldn't try to rebuild G.I. Joe first and then bring them in with the Transformers. It feels to me a little bit like they're jumping the gun a bit. Like, I don't know how popular G.I. Joe is going to be with the younger movie-going audience, and I don't really know how interested people who grew up with G.I. Joe will be interested to go and see a feature film with them mixed with Transformers. I'm very mixed on my feelings about this announcement, and I think a lot of that does have to do with the fact that I was kind of underwhelmed with Rise of the Beasts. But I'll throw it to you first, Zach. Did you see Rise of the Beasts? I'm pretty sure you did. And do you think that it's too early to do this idea, or do you think that this is the right time to bring G.I. Joe and Transformers together?
1,000% too early. It's supposed to be shooting to come out for next year. And when the Rise of the Beast came out, when people were asking about the G.I. Joe tease at the end, they were saying like, oh yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to keep doing Transformers movies and then we're going to sprinkle the G.I. Joes in them. Eventually they'll cross over. So I was excited for that because I was like, oh, they're going to rebuild the G.I. Joes through Transformers. That makes sense. The Transformers movies still are popular enough, and this new one's like a soft reboot to a point where now like new fans are going to come in. People watch it on streaming. The second one could do better. And I really like the director and everything like that. So hopefully he gets to do this since it was the idea. But for them to go from the Rise of the Beast to just jumping into a crossover film, if they're bringing back the old people, I think that's a bad idea. They need
Yes.
to reboot
Mhm.
G.I. Joe just like they rebooted Transformers just now. And bring a fresh, just like Scary Movie, like we just talked about in the segment before, bringing some fresh Joes, bringing some and Janets, I guess, yeah, some girls in there, and have them come in and connect with the audience in a way and find a new angle for G.I. Joe, other than they're just muscle bound warriors. So just jumping straight into it. Maybe I might be wrong. The trailer comes out, and then I'm like, "Holy crap, this looks amazing!"
Mhm.
All this star power. They brought The Rock back, and I think Channing Tatum and whoever else was in those movies, and
Marlon
Marlon
Wayans.
Yeah, and maybe, but I just find it weird that they're gonna jump straight into the crossover instead of doing the original plan was to sprinkle them throughout and then do it.
Yeah. I mean, T, not to single you out too much, but did you grow up with G.I. Joe? Did you like it as a kid? And
I did.
what do you think of this? What do you think of Transformers coming together with G.I. Joe? And can you see this working at this moment? Do you think that the audience will be psyched for this, or do you think there'll be too many of us saying, "What's G.I. Joe?"
No. So the original Transformers movie had G.I. Joe in it. You had Josh Duhamel and Tyrese. And like that was like they were the human fighting force that fought alongside the Transformers.
Okay.
So we've seen this before. And that, like when they originally, put the teaser out there, yeah, that got people talking. I never thought that I would see G.I. Joe on the movie screen again because those two G.I. Joe movies were not that great. I enjoyed Gordon Levitt as Cobra Commander in the original G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra. And then he just disappeared. Like it was like, what are y'all doing? Like he is the best, he's the biggest star. Then they killed Channing Tatum off. Spoiler, I'm sorry. They killed Channing Tatum in the second one. And we get The Rock. Like, I mean, he probably will show up in this because he is the franchise player. Like he's the final boss. The Rock will show up in G.I. Joe versus Transformer. He's probably going to try to fight a Transformer by himself. Like
Probably.
I grew up with G.I. Joe. I enjoyed the G.I. Joe animated movie, which is an underrated classic in my book. But the live action movie, Snake Eyes, was not that great. I do Henry Golden. He was great as Snake Eyes. Like he was great as the human character, but the movie itself was terrible. So it's going to happen. I don't foresee it working the way they think it's going to work, where it's going to reinvigorate the G.I. Joe franchise because like the G.I. Joe franchise is an 80s franchise, right? You had Shipwreck, you had the Crimson Twins, and like those are iconic characters that don't work today. Like none of those things, like He-Man doesn't work today. Like they very 80s, very niche for the time. Now, if they bring back Shipwreck, which is my favorite G.I. Joe character, because he just walked around with a sailor hat on all day and like he had bell-bottom jeans. Like if they bring him in the movie, then I'll go see it. But other than that, then I don't know.
Well, we've heard what T needs in order to make this work. Michael, what do you think? What do you think needs to be here to make this movie work? Do you think that this movie is already destined to flop, not do well, or do you think that there's more love for G.I. Joe here that this is a good decision to do right now?
Well, I mean, I didn't grow up with G.I. Joe personally. I grew up with a rip-off version of G.I. Joe called Rescue Heroes.
Me too.
I don't know.
I remember those.
Oh, you remember that? Wow. Okay. I feel like I was in an alternate universe.
I had the animated movie on VHS, or maybe
oh
it was
my gosh,
a TV show. I can't remember. And I had like the collection of all those guys.
Wow. Thank you, man. I was always waiting for somebody to say they remember that. I felt like I was the only one in an alternate universe. Like, does nobody remember Rescue Heroes? The only thing I remember of G.I. Joe was a lot of those VHS tapes I had, like Land Before Time. They'd have like those G.I. Joe commercials, like the "Now we know and knowing is half the battle." Like such a famous saying.
You just unlocked a core memory for me there. That's crazy.
It's a good quote, man. Hopefully, if they do that in this new movie, I really hope they actually have a chance to say that. Maybe Optimus Prime says, "Now we know." But I don't know personally, man. I mean, I think G.I. Joe was one of those things that like is kind of dated. Like I feel like if they would have made like a live action G.I. Joe film back in the day, maybe they had Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren, I think that would have been probably like a love letter to GI Joe fans. But when even when the first GI Joe film came out, it didn't even really do incredibly well. It was just kind of came and went. So I don't really know, honestly. I feel like they're kind of going the Zack Snyder route, where Zack kind of did rush a lot when he did Batman v Superman and then rushed to Justice League. Even though I am a Zack Snyder fan, I feel like they are rushing it a bit. I feel like if they really want to just do it, they should just ease up a bit. Just like ease up a bit. Maybe because like they are kind of rebooting the Transformers films, even though some people say it's still considered part of the Bayhem universe. That's kind of up for debate. So I'd say very similar to what Zach said. I feel like they should just. I feel like it is a little bit too early, and maybe they should just wait a bit, because at this point, I don't really think it's a good idea, in my opinion.
Well, let's take it to buy or sell. Do we buy or sell a Transformers G.I. Joe crossover movie right now? I'm going to sell it. Oh, wow. Okay. I wasn't sure if I was going to be alone on that or not. Okay. So, yeah, 3 of us sell it and Michael's on the fence. All right. Fair enough, dude. Yeah. Look, we'll see what they do. We'll see what they do with it. But
yeah.
Seems very bizarre to me. The Ace Avenue's in here, by the way, guys, saying, "Sup, fellas? Sorry I couldn't make it, but gotta stop by and support, dude. Appreciate you so much,
you, man,
for being here, dude, and hope you're doing well." From an '80s cartoon that I knew nothing about to an '80s cartoon I freaking loved. I mean, whether it was the '80s Turtles, whether it was the early 2000s, whether it was the 1990s movie, whether it's the Nickelodeon shows going on, I think a lot of people have grown up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they have been, at least in the general mainstream media, a kid franchise for the most part. For the most part, they've been aimed at kids. They've stayed aimed at kids. Mutant Mayhem, while I enjoyed it, it still leaned pretty young. I had a lot of fun with it, but I've been waiting for Turtles to grow up with their audience, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of people even older than me who grew up with the Ninja Turtles and love them, and these characters translate themselves to being a little bit more mature content and characters and themes out there, and I think they do a pretty good job putting those themes and maturity into a lot of the shows and content that they've been doing, but they've never fully gone to an adult place. Well, Cowabunga, guys. We are getting an R-rated Turtles movie.
I'm so excited.
I cannot believe it. This comes to us from The Hollywood Reporter. It says, Paramount is developing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin, adapting a popular storyline seen in the recent IDW comics as a live-action feature with the intent in making it R-rated. Tyler Burton Smith, who co-wrote the upcoming R-rated action movie Boy Kills World and who wrote the 2019 iteration of Chucky horror franchise Child's Play, is penning the script. Walter Hamada, which you guys may recognize the name from the DCEU, is producing through his 18HZ production company as part of his multi-year deal with the studio. Hamada is the former head of DC Films who rose through the ranks at New Line, where he oversaw the Warner Brothers divisions of horror movies, including The Conjuring and its franchises. His 18HZ banner is focused on making features in the horror genre. That comes to us from The Hollywood Reporter. This was announced at CinemaCon, and of all the announcements at CinemaCon, this is the one that had my jaw on the floor. I cannot believe they're doing this. For those who don't know the Last Ronin story, which I've only heard the synopsis of, but I've got the comic book coming on Monday. By the time you're watching this, I'm probably at work getting a notification saying that it's arrived at my house, and I'm super excited to read it. But it's a dystopian future where only one turtle remains. The other 3 have been killed off. You don't know which turtle it is, but he's on a vengeance seek for the ones that killed his family. I am pumped. I am so pumped for this. It does beg the question, will the mainstream audience be ready for this? Because we have been conditioned. Turtles is a younger viewing franchise. If you want to age it up a little bit more, it's for all the ages. It's a show, it's a movie, it's a franchise for all ages. I cannot wait to see all the mothers take their 6-year-old kids to The Last Ronin, just knowing it's a Ninja Turtles movie that they watch on Nickelodeon every once in a while.
I'm taking my kid to this.
I'm gonna throw it to you, Michael. The Last Ronin. Have you read it? Have you heard about it? Are you super excited for this? Do you think that this is a mistake to do an R-rated Turtles movie? How do you feel about this?
So I have read The Last Ronin. I haven't read it like so many times, enough to like know a lot about it, but I remember being very enthralled by it. I am a massive Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. I love the '80s cartoon. I remember my dad bought like the VHS collection of it. It was at like this place that I go to still called Zia Records. I don't have it anymore, unfortunately, because VHSs are just outdated. But loved it. I love the '90s films, even the third one, which is pretty bad, but love it. I love the 2000s cartoon. I am a huge fan of the 2007 animated film just called TMNT. Such an underrated film, in my opinion. This is definitely a hot take, but I really do like the Michael Bay produced ones. Just specifically the turtles in that movie. I think the turtles, obviously Michael Bay didn't direct it. He was just a producer, but I like to think he probably did direct it. I thought the turtles in both of those movies perfect, and we actually finally got to see a live action version of Krang, which was awesome. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, I loved. That was probably one of my favorite films of last year. I think I gave it like an A.
Nice.
So the fact that we're getting this, not only that, it's live action. I'm there. I don't care. I'm expecting it to be at least good. Just take my money. I will literally skip on paying the rent to see this movie multiple times. I'm excited, dude. So excited.
Zach, are you joining me and Michael over here? Did you grow up with the Turtles? Are you excited for an R-rated Turtles? Do you think this is a mistake? How are you feeling about this?
I love the Ninja Turtles. The '90s movie is in my top 5 favorite films of all time.
Yes.
I watched. That's my comfort film. I can just turn it on and just don't lose myself, like Eminem would say. But I've been watching Turtles even the Rise of the Turtles on Nickelodeon, where they could kind of do like an anime style. I like that too. I haven't seen a bad version of Turtles. The movie where they cross over with Batman, they just always are great. Even the story's just okay because the Turtles are fun. And Mutant Mayhem is starting a new franchise. We're getting a TV show, and then we're getting a second movie, and that's one's for the kids. So The Last Ronin is one of the most popular comics in the last like 5 to 6 years. And we're getting a video game based on it.
That's right. Yes.
And now we're going to be getting this, and I think that just shows that book must have sold a whole lot of money, because a whole lot of books to make a lot of money, because they're just spinning off of it. And they know there's interest, and I haven't gotten to read it yet, but it's in my Amazon cart now after I saw that this was announced, because I was like, I need to go read this now. This
price is going to go up. I need to get that before the price goes up.
This and Woman of Tomorrow, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow in my cart. I'm like, let me go get these 2 books and read them and see what I'm getting into. But I think that if they can find a good tone like Logan, I think that's because Last Ronin is kind of a riff on Logan, kind of. So I think if they could do that Western style, just get you really like into the R-rated space, like in the first scene, so you know what you're getting into. I think that this movie will be successful. Is it going to make tons of money? I don't know, because Mutant Mayhem didn't make tons of money. It did okay. So I don't know how much money they could put into it, but I'm just really excited to see what they pull off.
I'm excited. I don't think it's going to happen.
Ooh, dude, don't rain on my parade here, man. I got the balloons, and you're just coming and cutting the strings, and oh man,
I'm about to cry.
I grew up on the Ninja Turtles. I went and saw the original, like the 1991 Ninja Turtles. Me, my whole family, we went and saw it in the theaters. Went and saw Secret of the Ooze in the theaters. I went and saw the third one in the theaters. I've seen every Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film in the theater. I love the there's something that me and my cousins, one of our things. Every Saturday morning we would get up, we would watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on CBS. It was a phenomenon. Part of the reason why I say I don't think it's going to happen is because test screenings, right? They're going to test screen this thing, and there's going to be some moms who go into the theater and be like, this is not the Teenage Mutant, even though they're telling you it's an R-rated film, right? They're telling you it's R-rated. Then some studio exec's going to hear that, they're going to see that, and they say, well, can we make it PG-13? Can't we do that? Can we make it PG-13? And they're going to figure out a way to do that and water it down. And it's going to be a good film because the story itself is a great story. I just don't think it has enough Logan in it to like this buzz that CinemaCon got. Like a lot of people are talking about it, so maybe it will because of the buzz and like a lot of people want to see it. But like universally, you want this movie can't be low budget, so it's gonna have a budget. They're gonna want to make that back. R-rated films traditionally don't make those budgets. They don't make the like unless it's the Joker, unless it's stylistically something that we've never seen before. But we've seen Logan. So, like, which did Logan make $1 billion? Am I? Was it close?
So
I think it was. I think it did like 700 million. I want to say.
I'm the official Google 619 million.
But I just and that was such a bigger property than the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like Wolverine, those films were. That was an error. With that, like Logan was just Wolverine, the Wolverine. They were all terrible movies to me, but a lot of people went and saw them. A lot of people loved them. I think that they're gonna cave on an R rating. That's just my personal opinion. I could be completely wrong. I feel like they're gonna cave. They're gonna make it PG-13, and it's still gonna be a good movie, but it's just not gonna be, the blood and gore fest that one turtle wreaking havoc across a dystopian future, that I would like to see.
I hate how much
That's
sense
a good.
you just
That's a
made,
good
'cause
point.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I definitely because I mean totally different time, but it did happen before. After Turtles 1990 came out, the parents were like, this is pretty violent for kids, and then they weren't allowed to use the weapons in Secret of the Ooze, and different time, but we have seen it before. And I mean, I know it's a totally different situation, but Walter Hamada, I mean, how many DC projects were announced when he was in the DCEU that didn't happen? So that's a good point as well. I will say that as long as they keep the budget low enough, because the Turtles films have never really made bank at the box office. Like even Mutant Mayhem didn't do drastically huge numbers, but it did okay. This is definitely a gamble, and this is definitely ambitious for them to do. But I want to ask you guys, because in my ideal version of this, it is a legacy sequel to the 90s trilogy, and they go Jim Henson, and they go animatronic head, they go full costume. I mean, you look at the last Ronin in the lower picture here, he's got a bunch of armor and coverings on. So I feel like the costume, especially with how advanced we are now, could work even better than in the 90s. And I mean, I feel like they'd probably go motion capture, which isn't the worst thing to go. Like the Michael Bay Turtles, I didn't think they looked awful, but there is something about this where I'm like, I want a practical suit for this turtle. I'll throw it to you first, Zach. What do you think they should do with the turtle? Do you think it should be a CGI turtle, or do you think they go 90s practical suit?
So I thought for sure they were gonna go CGI until you brought up the sequel to the 90s, legacy sequel to the 90s with Five Nights at Freddy's. No, I don't care what you think about the film. The animatronics look amazing in that movie.
Oh, they do,
So
yeah.
lifelike. And if they can find someone to do that in a way where that person can move around and look good, then they can definitely do that. And I think it'll be bring an element to the film that other films just can't compete with. But I think what T is saying, I think it all depends on the writer. We have a movie from this writer coming. I think it's at the end of this month. Boy Kills the World, or Boy versus the World, or something like that. If that movie does really well, and people talk about how this was a well-written action flick, then I think they'll behoove them. They'll be like, okay, let's get the ball rolling on this, because this guy knows how to please audiences. Now, if that movie completely flops, I think that's where things might teeter on this film, or they might find somebody else to write and direct it.
I want to say both, honestly, because the thing with animatronics is, as much as I love practical effects, there are some things that are really hard to animate. Because as much as I love the original TMNT films from the 90s, even though the practical effects with them wearing the suits, obviously their mouths sometimes don't even look like they're saying the words that they're saying.
There's people in them sometimes they open too wide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like it'll be like, hey, what's going? Like their mouths are always moving like this. It's like, what is going on? So I feel like maybe they could do both. Because for me, I've always loved practical effects because it's better when there's something physically in front of the camera. But with CGI, if you just limit it to maybe doing CGI, maybe just with the mouth and eyes, it would actually help a lot more. Because even though like the CGI in the Michael Bay versions were very well done, even though the movies itself were just kind of meh, the CGI was very well done. But at the same time, you can still tell it's CGI. Even with the Planet of the Apes movies, the CGI in Planet of the Apes movies are phenomenal. But obviously, you can still tell it's CGI. So I feel like if they maybe combine it, then I have a feeling that that could actually be really cool because they did that with the first Hellboy movie. You know, where Hellboy's fighting the monster in the subway. That was all practical, but then like the monster when like his eyes were moving and like his tongue spat out, that was CGI. So if they combine both of that, I have no doubt that it could actually look really awesome.
Yeah. You do like the Jurassic Park approach where it's like we're close in with the turtle. It's the suit. It's practical, but wide shots, maybe some big action sequences. You get a CGI because I mean, CGI is so
overused.
smoothly blended in. So smoothly blended in
to
sequences and environments nowadays with what they're able to do with the technology. It's incredible.
So originally, I was going to say CGI because this turtle has to be a complete badass. And there has to be some epic fights in this movie. But I'm going to say practical. Why? Because of John Wick 4. Scott Adkins, put him in a turtle suit, let him beat the living. Like, Scott Adkins is my favorite action star. Like, that dude is such a badass. You put him in a turtle suit because he showed he could do it with the fat suit in John Wick 4.
That's true. Yeah,
you put him in that turtle suit and let Scott Adkins just beat the living crap out of people. He has the skills. He has the chops. Then let's go practical. As long as Scott Adkins is in the suit, let's go practical. And then
I
we see
agree.
CG out of mouth.
That's brilliant. That is
I agree.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. I mean, the more we talk about this, the more excited I get for this movie. So I think the buy or sell is kind of giving my cards away here, but let's just go to it. Buy or sell for R-rated Turtles. Last Ronin film. Oh, on the fence there, T. All right.
All fingers up, man.
That's not even going to happen.
PG-13, yeah.
I will be so sad if you end
or
up
it can't be
right.
PG-13, man. It just can't. Not this one.
With that, guys, that's the show. We got through all the topics. Thank you guys so much for joining, being here, talking about all this great stuff. This was a really fun show and great set of topics. Let's start with our newest member, Zach Attack. Tell the people where they can find you, man.
You can find me on Zach Attack YouTube channel. I do movie reviews. I do a Tuesday live show every Tuesday for all the biggest movie news. I do trailer reactions, throwback reviews, everything. Come join and have fun.
You can find me at Have You Seen That with T, the YouTube channel. I also have a letterbox at Have You Seen That. I should be dropping my Civil War review probably tomorrow because I don't have the energy to do it today. But I will definitely be dropping that Civil War review tomorrow. And yeah.
You can just find me, look up Michael Entity. I don't review movies a whole lot. Sometimes like I'll review a new release like a week after it came out, but I still review them. And I also am coming out with a horror film, which is going to be premiering on July 27th. If you guys want to check out the trailer, it's on there, as well as tickets if you guys are willing to drive to Arizona, or if you live in Arizona, come out on July 27th and have some fun with me on the red carpet.
That's very exciting, man. I just want to give you a round of applause for that because that
appreciate that, man.
Very awesome. And you got Riley coming out too. Like you're really building up your filmography, dude. It's awesome to see.
I appreciate that. And
yeah, you can find me right here on this channel where you're currently at. I don't leave. I live here. I am trapped in this box. Please help me. With that said, thank you guys for joining us. We will, of course, see you again next week. All these guys' links are down in the description below. Go check out their channels. They're awesome. Take care, guys.